After I was finished my awesome goon sesh to Ice Spice twerking and farting, I was doing the usual thing niggas do after they finish gooning. That being scrolling through Instagram Reels or scrolling through TikTok. And honestly, this made me think about how, in my honest opinion, some of the funniest memes of this year have to be from JJ. Like, I swear to God, some of this shit be really funny. And honestly, some of my favorite ones are the ones where the shonen pretty boy himself, Gojo Satoru, becomes a sex offender and starts raping other people. However, this thought made me think of something that I honestly didn't know I needed to think about. How strong are Gojo's backshots? Firstly, we have to explain a little bit about Gojo Satoru before we can go over his backshot giving ability. Gojo Satoru is a character who, upon his introduction, is immediately deemed the top one in his entire verse. It's honestly quite crazy how most characters in this Jujutsu Kaisen anime cut down to him. Like, honestly, they cut down to him. His prestige as the big nigga is not the only thing that makes him interesting though. Honestly, one of the things that makes him extremely interesting is, in fact, his riz.
Shut your lame ass up.
His riz is so great that even as a 16-year-old, when he had to enter into a high school to protect someone, the teacher of said high school quickly ran up to him and gave him her number in the hopes that she would be committing the Kawakami and allowing her to diddle a minor. But honestly, what makes him even more impressive is his real life riz.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
This character is so sexy and handsome that he is even able to make some of the straightest guys bisexual. His riz is even more powerful on women. Female JJK fans are considered some of the craziest people you could ever come into contact with. In fact, it's honestly quite sad how most girls these days would rather fuck someone who doesn't even exist and is consistent of 2 dimensions than a nigga who is 5'3". It's honestly really sad. One other interesting thing about Gojo Satoru is that, in fact, unlike most people here to be honest, he has motion. Now, how can I prove this? Simple. At one point, Gojo Satoru had to pay out a character named Mei. Mei, who is the greatest gold digger of the entire series. To have enough money to completely satisfy this bitch is in of itself impressive and indicative of Gojo's bag-getting ability. This, along with his IRL and inverse riz, gives me the impression that whenever Gojo gives someone backshots, he is so desirable by everyone that they seem to just let him. I believe honestly that those memes where Luffy is getting his shit pushed in by Gojo and getting the infinity backshots, Luffy isn't forcefully getting his butt took. He wants it. With this, we are finally ready to talk about our glorious King Gojo and his abilities and how they apply in the bed. Gojo's technique is called the Limitless technique, which brings the concepts of infinity into real life and applies them in various ways. The neutral infinity barrier infinitely halves the distance of a moving object coming into contact with Gojo, all the way to the point where it seemingly stops entirely. The technique also seems to be able to push things away, as seen when Gojo smacks the shit out of Hanami. Now, how would this translate in the bed? It's honestly pretty simple. The barrier aspect of the infinity technique could potentially give Gojo somewhat of a Dig Susanoo, extending the size of his penis, giving him the ability to penetrate someone with a 42-inch member even though he might only have 12. Using the distance halving aspect of his technique, whenever he eats a woman's yarch or yarning, her fluids will not be able to come into contact with Gojo's face. And if Gojo nuts on her face and she wants to lean in for a kiss, The infinity technique can prevent him from sucking his own cock. The blue and red techniques are honestly a lot more simple to explain. Blue is basically a pull technique, and red is basically a push technique. Now, how could this be applied to in the bed? If Gojo was able to apply these effects to his penis, pushing and pulling on the vaginal wall, then potentially Gojo could technically give someone the suction cup back shots. Isn't that crazy? Up next, we have the infamous Hollow Purple. Hollow Purple is a big blast of energy that potentially erases someone from existence. Now, I don't think this has any practicality in the bed. However, if Gojo catches someone not praying today and they decide to try and call the police, Gojo might just whip out Hollow Purple and...
How dare you do that, Timmy? How dare you do that? I said no and you kept going. You are human trash. You are beyond human trash. I'm gonna call the fucking police. They're gonna get you. They're gonna arrest you. You're gonna be put away in jail for 30 fucking years. How can you live with yourself?
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to his domain expansion, Unlimited Void. This technique forcefully fucks infinite information into its victims. In particular, 6 months worth of information over the course of 0.2 seconds. That much information is obviously too much for the target to bear, and thus their brain literally fries. Now, how could this be used in the bed? If Gojo could somehow capture the sensation of orgasming, potentially using Unlimited Void, he could make the girl he's fucking orgasm an infinite amount of times. This much gooning can obviously kill you, which is probably another way Gojo can use to BFR someone who's trying to get him arrested. Aside from his curse techniques, he has innate abilities such as the 6 eyes. This allows Gojo to basically waste no energy whatsoever and have infinite stamina. Infinite stamina equals infinite backshots. But what about his recovery time? Nigh infinitesimal because of his ability to use reverse curse technique. If you use reverse curse technique on your balls, surely your sperm count will increase to optimal levels again. And finally, what about Gojo's thrusting speed? Well, Gojo actually has the ability to teleport, which can possibly mean that Gojo's backshots may in fact be instantaneous. With all of this knowledge towards Gojo's backshot giving ability, I sincerely ask all of the female JJK fans, are you prepared to hear the words,
did you pray today? Did you pray today? I'ma have to take you down on some piece of shit. Did you pray today? Did you pray today?